Hello, family, and welcome to another episode of Role Model Experts Cafe. I'm your host, Dr. L, the Parent Whisperer, and today with me, I have an amazing lady. Her name is Cate Leach, and I love how she showed up. I had a conversation with her, and I felt important that you hear her message. So thank you for being here with us, and thank you, Cate, for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here with us today. Tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, and your passions, and how you ended up doing what you do.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having me, Dr. L. I really appreciate it. I just feel so connected to you as we both really like to approach parenting from the role model aspect, which is so important. As we know, our kids don't do what we say, they do what we do.
Yep.
so, so I am a mama of 7 now grown children, and 4 of them are daughters. And I raise strong, independent women. And it was my goal to find a way for them to protect themselves as they went out and made their mark on the world. And it wasn't easy to figure that out. They didn't want to become martial artists. We didn't have a lot of money to spend or time. And so when I finally figured out that it doesn't have to be expensive or time consuming, I was so excited for my own girls. So we got ourselves all protected and we know what to do now. We have our plan. But because it had been a difficult journey for me to find this information and be able to teach it to my girls, I became very passionate about sharing the information. And so now I have created a kind of a mission and a business to get the word out and help other moms empower their own children to be self-protected in this world.
I love it. I love it. And thank you for what you do. It's so important for parents to share this knowledge. Somehow, in the process of modernization, I feel like what used to be passed down to us from generation to generation has kind of been lost, and we're kind of left to our own devices to figure out how to raise kids without a owner's manual, right?
That's so true.
I really
Yeah.
appreciate that. So, so tell me, what do you see as a big impact or as a consequence of your trials and tribulations in raising your children? You definitely have a lot of experience in doing it, right?
I do. I do. So, as a parent, I feel like I've gone through every up and down there is.
Mm.
And, we had our first 2 children. We thought we had opposites. Well, by the time we were done with 7, we have 7 opposites. The kids they're all so unique and they're all such their own person. And so, yeah, we've been through a lot, and it's been quite a journey. But, we've come out on the side where our children are growing and they're all involved in our lives and friends with us, and, an intricate part of our lives. And really, as we're raising those children, I listened to another interview you did with a different guy, sorry, I don't remember her name. And she mentioned that we're raising adults. And it's so true. And we forget that so often. We're so stuck on maybe what stage they're in, or, oh, I have a teenager. But the goal is to have well-functioning, good citizen adults, right?
Right, exactly. Exactly. Awesome. So in your experience and what you do, what do you typically see parents as well as children struggle with prior to coming to see you?
So especially I find that moms, we begin to really worry about our girls' safety, especially like the tween years, as our girls begin developing and being noticed and, that sort of thing. Moms get really anxious. It becomes worrisome. And because they haven't really embraced their own safety yet and their own like personal protection, they're really not sure what to do, but they know in their heart that they're super uncomfortable, and they either, want to totally shelter their daughter to keep her safe, or they pretend like it's a safe world, or, there's a lot of different angles we as moms take. Mm-hmm. And the reason, I think, is because they don't know an easy way to take care of this. And so that's kind of the main struggle that I see. And dads have it too, kind of from a different angle, whereas they have that protective gene in them already, but they don't either know how to get their girls to listen to them, and so a lot of times I'll have people that will buy pepper sprays or stun devices for their teenage daughter, and then they're upset that their teenage daughter doesn't use it, and or isn't interested. And that's why the role model parenting is key, because as a mom, you have to embrace it for yourself first. And the younger your daughter is, when you start embracing it for yourself, the better. The more you just make it a part of your daily life. So, today we're going somewhere and I'm going to park on the street and instead of in the parking garage, and just casually mentioning it's because parking garages often have a lot of crime. So we're going to have to walk an extra block, but it's worth it. Not a lecture, just kind of a offhand comment to start teaching your child about how to stay safe in this world. Wow. So yeah, that's kind of the angle that
so different now compared to what it was just 10, 20 years ago. And also the other thing I've noticed is there's this generational gap that is like becoming bigger and bigger just within a span of a few years, so if you have a child that's, just like, let's say there's 20 years of age difference, and then you have another one that's 25, they could be in completely different generations or
right.
generational gaps. So it could be very different.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
Right. And then, so they come to you usually. I'm assuming that you have these suggestions, which I'm sure is helpful, because most of us, one of the challenges is we are not aware of the options that are available to us. So I understand that part. But then what is some of the other challenges that you see in trying to implement your suggestions, your techniques? What are some of the things that people have to learn to start doing differently once they know what the options are?
So the other obstacle is, one of the other obstacles is that especially females do not really, like in their heart of hearts, believe that their life is worth a fight. As mamas, we believe our daughter's life is worth a fight, our son's life, but we're not absolutely convinced. And that is something, or even that you're willing to hurt another human being to stop him from attacking you, assaulting you, killing you, raping you, whatever. It's a mindset that as women, we really come up almost against this brick wall, like, well, I couldn't do that. I couldn't hurt somebody. And so we have to work through what we really believe, and get to that point where you can say out loud, my life is worth a fight and I will fight for myself, having that willingness. And, simple little things like, you never want to be taken to like the second crime scene. So you get attacked in a parking lot. You want to fight with everything you have, because the chances of coming out alive, if you're taken to that second crime scene where they want to get you to, I mean, they're almost negligible. So, those are kind of some mindset issues that we have to embrace and think about and determine, okay, do I agree with that? Can I embrace that as my mindset as I work on protecting myself and my family?
Right. That's a very valid point. A lot of times I've been a student of Chinese martial arts for many, many decades now. I'm actually a national judge. And I remember that one of the big points about this whole, making sure that you get safe or you stay safe or you survive is actually situational awareness and understanding your options, what's around you, those things that, the best way to win a fight is never to get into one in the first place.
Exactly. So, right. To avoid that. Yeah.
So what are some of the tips and suggestions that you have for our audience members, female or male? Because nowadays, who knows, there's all kinds of, but yes, historically, women have definitely been more subject to this violence and this kind of outcomes. So So what are your suggestions?
For sure. But so situational awareness, like you brought up, is absolutely foundational. Study after study shows that predators pick targets that are timid looking, not really paying attention to what's going on around them. Maybe they're like really involved with their phone, or they're just look depressed, their heads down, their shoulders are kind of rolled over, that sort of thing. Those are targets. When you allow yourself to present yourself in that sort of way in public, I mean, I know we all have bad days, but I tell my clients, you have to put on that coat of confidence. You have to keep your head off. You need to project being somebody that you don't want to mess with, that other people don't want to mess with. You have to just put that on, even if you're just pretending, because when we allow ourselves to kind of have that timid, maybe even just shy appearance when we're in public, that's a target on our back. So we really want to work on that. We talk about keeping my head on a swivel. So I know who's around me. I know who's behind me, just that whole sort of thing. And making yourself make that a habit. These things need to become a habit, just a daily part of when you're out and about, being aware of what's going on around you. In a parking lot, most people should be coming or going, right? So if there's people just hanging around, keep an eye on them, be aware. What are they doing? It doesn't mean they're necessarily out there to harm anybody, but they sure could be, and then a lot of,
sorry, it actually affects your conversation and your interaction in the day-to-day interaction with society and human beings as well. It has, like, it doesn't have to be violent, but like what you just said, that how you're carrying yourself posturally and everything. Like if you get into a discussion or a conversation with someone and they see you as such, that conversation goes in a completely different direction than if you're confident. So
that
it's
is
important
so
for your
true.
success as well. It's not just about, violence or staying safe. It goes a long way in fulfilling your potential in life. So, yeah.
That's an excellent point. I love that very much. Yeah, yeah. And part of that kind of choosing to not be fearful when you're out and about. And a lot of women, maybe they'll see somebody that kind of is giving them the creepies, or whatever, and so they hurry to their car and get in and lock the door. Well, my suggestion is to look that person straight in the eyes. Don't smile, don't make conversation, but let them know, I see you and I could identify you. Just something simple like that, and then walk with confidence to your car instead of like we're hurrying to get out of dangerous path. So it brings something about inside of us that makes us more confident at our core, which
Right.
kind of to what you said does help us in all aspects of life.
Right.
And then it also gives you a peace of mind that you didn't even know you were missing once you determine that I'm going to embrace my own protection, and I'm going to teach this to my children.
Mhm.
You just have a peace of mind that is wonderful because you've got that plan. You don't have to worry about it. You've trained yourself to have good habits now.
Absolutely. In fact, I think what you just described goes a long way in bullying situations and things like that as well. That showing the bully that you are not nervous, that kind of like you can smell the fear type of a thing, knowing that
Yes,
you're willing to protect yourself, you're willing to stand up. That is as an important part of a person's personality, to be able to stand up for what they believe in, what they think, and who they are, and how they exist in the world, right? How they show up in the world, and to be able to
absolutely.
be
Yeah.
confident in that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And we
Um,
want to give our children that like education and ability to stand up for themselves. And one of the ways to do that is by starting conversations early about the yuckier things in our world, like grooming and pornography and things like that, that we want to protect our children from ugly, but the sooner we can start having conversations with them and making those words like just a normal word that we use in our house, the sooner those kids can be looking out for it and be aware of it, and then protecting themselves and even their friends from it.
Absolutely. I love that aspect, that, the sooner people can create space, and by people, I mean the young people, the
Mm-hmm.
sooner they can create space, create room for the fullness of life, all the different things that happens in there, the more ultimately when they grow up, they can adjust to the reality that is life, instead of being
Yeah,
shocked by it and then have to react to it, right? So very,
exactly.
very important points, whether it happens to be death and dying in the family and part of the natural aging process, or whether it happens to be
Yeah.
violence. All of those things are things that the kids need to be aware of and know how to deal and handle. And like you said, I think verbalizing it and showing how it affects you personally as the parent in your adult life becomes also important too. Like I have shared stories like that about when I was in junior high and what happened and the scenarios and circumstances. Those type of things is important for the kids to see that, they're not the only ones, and it can happen to anybody, right? So, yeah,
Right, right. And
yeah.
that opens up the communication because now you're not just dad, you're a real person who went through hard stuff like me. So, yeah.
Exactly, exactly. Awesome. So, how can people find out and learn more about you and what you do and the things that you offer?
So my website is bepreparednotscared.org, and I have a lot of good tips and articles and videos on there. And then I do have a Facebook group called Every Woman a Warrior, and I share a lot of tips and hacks and just ways to get your safety plan on and really begin then sharing with your loved ones, so that you can be confident and have that peace of mind. And I'd invite anybody to join me in that.
I love that. Thank you. And for our audience members, please make sure that you look into this important topic. Check out what Cate has to offer. It's very important stuff. And I would love to have you more to talk about some of these details and some of the tips and advantages that people can put themselves in a situation where they have the upper hand, they have the advantage, and that as a result, they can be safer too. Cate, thank you so much for taking the time and spending it with us and sharing this important topic. Any tips or advice or final words that you have for our audience members before we part?
Sure. So today, just start with something as simple as reminding yourself that your life is worth the fight, just like your children's lives are. And then when you're out and about, be aware of what's going on around you. Start pretending at least to be confident, and eventually that will turn into real confidence. As we all know, sometimes we just have to take that step forward. So portray yourself as a confident person, and it's going to take the target off your back.
Awesome. I love that. Thank you so much. Guys, go ahead and check the description box below. That's where I've put all the links for Cate's information, contact information, materials for you. So take advantage of that. If you haven't already done so, make sure that you click subscribe so you get the latest on all the interviews that come up with the various experts. And I appreciate every single one of you. And once again, Cate, thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was my pleasure.
Cheers. Bye.